Hello, I am Wood E. Totem, and I'm going to be interviewing the creator of 10 Fingers Woodworking. Please sit back and enjoy. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room and find out, how did you come up with the name 10 Fingers Woodworking for your channel?
I used to work in an office setting and we would take breaks in the cafeteria. And one day we were joking around about other woodworking YouTube channels, and one of my friends suggested that should create a channel called 10 Fingers Woodworking. What's hilarious is that he also came up with the concept of how I shine off my longer videos of count your fingers. If you end up with 10, good job. We all had a great laugh about it, and at one point my brother asked me to do a video on how to testing plywood in water, and I did that. Actually, he asked me to do a video testing gluing wood to metal, and that's the very first video I did. And from there, I just started making videos under 10 Fingers Woodworking.
How did you decide that woodworking was an activity that you were interested in?
That's an interesting question. My father was an apprenticed piano builder. He owned a piano and organ dealership. And as growing up, I saw him working with wood a lot, fixing dings on pianos and refinishing. And he did a phenomenal job. Sadly, he didn't teach me any of it. I remember one time my father got a particular piano and decided to store it at the house, and my mother liked the piano quite a bit. The only problem was the rack that held the music was so shallow that it would not hold the pages open. So against his wishes, we found a woodworking store and found somebody who was willing to recut that lip for where the music was and then reattach the felt. And he did that, and I noticed that this person was exuding from an internal peace, and I felt that woodworking was something that would help me find internal peace, and as a result, that's why I started woodworking. I was looking for something that I could bring joy to my life.
Very interesting. How did you start woodworking?
We had a certain amount of woodworking tools growing up. We had this little lathe with a jigsaw blade on a little bed, and I played around with that for quite a while. And there was always some little tiny project to do that was wood based, but we never really delved into it. And when I moved out on my own and had my first place on my own as an adult, not in college, but as an adult, I built a little 10-foot by 10-foot tin shed. And that tin shed held my washing machine and dryer for I lived in a mobile home at the time, held my washing machine and dryer, and I also built some benches and started woodworking. My first projects were actually not woodworking. I used to get plexiglass and engrave onto the plexiglass, and then I'd make a wood base for it that the plexiglass would fit in. And that was really my very first woodworking. Then I tried to make a table. I've done a video on that little table that I did with the Delft tiles on the top, and in all honesty, it was the best I could do at the time. But if I did it today, I would be deeply ashamed. But I started out very small. The only tools I had at that time was a little circular saw, a screwdriver. I didn't even have a power screwdriver. I had a circular saw, a jigsaw, and other minor tools like that. And over time, I built up my shop and my skills, and I am here where I'm at today.
How much time do you spend in the shop daily?
Well, when I was still working, I'm retired now. When I was still working, I'd come out in the shop and spend all day Saturday and all day Sunday in the shop. And because that was pretty much the only time I had to do woodworking. But then I retired, and now I pretty much get in the shop almost every day, but then I don't spend all day in the shop. My wife and I will go exercise, and then in the afternoon, excuse me,
Bless you.
and in the afternoon, I will get in the shop and do my projects. So it roughly works out to be maybe 3 or 4 hours a day that I do woodworking. And I my wife is laughing in the background, so it lost my train of thought.
It's okay. Go on.
I roughly do 3 or 4 hours doing woodworking, and I don't work in the shop every single day. A lot of times I will just not come in, and I'll take a break. I'll read, or I'll do something else. So, but on average, 3 or 4 hours a day when I'm in the shop.
You have a lot of tools. Are there any tools that you still wish you had?
Well, I have a very small shop. It's really one carport width, little bit wider, and then it's got a little L to it. And really, with wood storage and tools that I have, I've pretty much filled up the shop. I'm always looking for space to put more things in the shop, and really, I think I've maxed it out. So, are there any tools? Sure, there were always certain tools that I kind of wish I had, but not bad enough to try to figure out where to put them. So I think I would like a mortiser, but really I don't do that much mortising. So is it really that necessary? I would like a jointer, but I found other ways to do that. So in all honesty, no, I think I'm good with the tools I have.
Well, that being said, are there any tools that you have purchased that you're sorry you got?
I'm kind of looking at 2 tools right now that I virtually never use. They're in my line of sight right now, and one is a scroll saw, and the other is a miter saw. My miter saw almost never comes out. I do all my miter sawing on my table saw. The only time I use the miter saw is when my stock is so large that I can't fit it on the table saw for whatever reason. And the scroll saw, yeah, it comes out of use every so often, but definitely not enough to justify its purchase. But I think those are pretty much the only tools. I'm kind of looking around, and I'm not really seeing anything that I am sorry I purchased. So, yeah, I follow the philosophy of buy the tool you need when you need it, and don't go watching YouTube videos and somebody says, "Oh, this is a fantastic tool. You must have this." Don't do that, because the times that I have done that, and I don't have those tools anymore. Actually, I have one tool right there. I did exactly that. People were talking about how wonderful biscuit joiners are. What a mistake. It is definitely not a tool that you need. If you want, it doesn't add strength to the joint, and it does help alignment, but you can do that with splines too, for that matter. So, that is the result of following somebody else's work pattern.
Yes, that makes sense.
Think on your own and get the tools you need for yourself.
What are your favorite tools then?
Well, some of my favorite tools are tools that I didn't think would be my favorite. And both of them are revolving around sanding. Sanding is a pain in the neck, and I pretty much would hazard a guess you won't find a single woodworker out there that says, I relish the day I get to sand. One is my drum sander, and I really like that. That really made things easier because I like to do a lot of picture frames, and this drum sander is a very good job of making everything planar, right? Level and flat. And it's open-ended, so even though it's only a 10-inch bed, it can do 20-inch sanding. And even if you sanded something 25 inches, then it just leaves a little 5-inch gap, as long as you don't try to go too deep, that you can sand by hand at that point. So I love my drum sander. My oscillating disc belt sander, that's a pretty cool tool too, and I use that a lot. And my disc sander, my former boss gave that to me.
That was nice of him.
It was one of those things I was like, I guess I'll take it. Yeah, he sort of offered it to me, and I said no at first, and then I called him back and said, yeah, I'll take it. And quite honestly, to tell you the truth, I go to that thing way more than I go to just about any other of my sanding tools, just because I can quickly touch something up. And since I like to do a lot of smalls, it's perfect for that. So, yeah, those are tools that I really love. But I'll say the most recent tool that I am very pleased about is this here vacuum system that I have set up.
Tell me more about that.
It isn't a professional shop. It does what it needs to do. And would I like it to be somewhat better? Yes, I would. I would like to get rid of this the standard bag and get a pleated paper filter so that it filters out better, because there's still a lot of dust floating around in here. But this has made my life so much better. It's so much easier. I used to just run the hose to the individual tool, whenever I was using it. And I found that if I was switching around tools, like if I switched between the table saw and the bandsaw regularly, then I got to the point where I just left it on one tool and didn't switch it to the other, because I was like, it was such a pain in the neck. Now I just have a area where I can just move the hose to and just quickly do it, and I find that I'm using it more and more. It's been great. I think that a decent dust collection system is well worth the.
So, do you sell a lot of your woodworking projects?
Virtually none at all. Once in a while, a friend or a coworker will contact me and say they want me to make something and they'll want to pay for it. A lot of times I will tell them, no, I'd rather just do it. But I virtually don't sell any at all. And part of the reason is because I am just a shade tree woodworker. I don't do this professionally. And so my skill level isn't the best skill level in the world. I do a pretty decent job, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty proud of the work that I do. But it's still just amateur hour, okay? And my theory is if I charge $200 for this dealy whacker that somebody had me build, and it fails, and my woodworking just falls apart, then even though I tried my best, I will feel guilty, and I'll want to refund them their money. However, if I give it to them and it fails and it falls apart, then I'll still refund their money. But they didn't pay anything, so no refund necessary. Plus, if you start doing, this is a hobby for me. This is a method for me to just zen out for a little while when I'm doing this stuff. Even though sometimes some of these projects cause me a bit of frustration. The project I'm working on right now has caused me some frustration, and I'm going to have to reassess how I did certain things on it. But even if I totally mess up, Oh, I'm sorry. I changed direction on my thought. This is a Zen moment for me. And if I start selling woodworking, then it becomes a production thing. Then it becomes, now I'm doing this for woodworking. Now I'm doing this for making some money. And then it's no longer Zen. Now this is a job. My previous job caused me a significant amount of stress just by the fact that I had to go in every day and I felt like I had to do stuff. But doing it the way I do woodworking, it's all for fun. It is all for fun, so it's a hobby. And I'd like to keep it that way. Now, one of the problems I do have is that I'm running out of space in my house for my projects. So I am contracting out to people to do stuff for them, and sometimes they want to pay me. And that's okay, as long as it's not a job. But I'm trying to figure out ways I can donate my woodworking to certain causes that I believe in. So um, that's that. I hope that answered your question.
Watching your videos, I've noticed that your shop is rather small. Have you ever thought about upsizing?
Yes, I do. A lot. I would love to have more space in here. This is packed as tightly as I possibly can get it. There's many a times that I have to move this bandsaw out of the way because the board I'm cutting is more than 4 feet long. There's a lot of times where I have to do things just to accommodate the size of this shop. And would I love to have one of these massive shops? Yes, I would. I look at people like the Wood Whisperer,
Mark Spagnolo?
who's got a very good channel, and he has this great shop in an old firehouse, or he did last time I watched one of his videos. And I say, look at that, and I say, wow, that'd be fantastic. However, one of the problems is, since I'm a hobbyist and not a professional woodworker, if I move my shop off-site of my house, then what will happen is that out of sight, out of mind, and then woodworking will quickly become a chore or just not happen at all. But my yard does not accommodate an external building. So,
Yes, that's a tough situation.
it is what it is. So I will live with what I got and be happy with it.
What was your biggest mistake as a woodworker?
Well, I would say, first of all, doing this video.
Interesting.
All kidding aside, sometimes trying to work too fast is a mistake, or ignoring mistakes. I will have a project that I made an error and I say, oh, I'll fix that later. Or I will just run through something really quickly and say, I don't need to pay attention to safety at this moment. Or I will do things where I'm not thinking things through. That is always my biggest mistake. I have on my on this hand right here 2 scars that are 7 stitches each,
Ouch.
and where I was tired, I was going to make my last cut of the day, and I was pushing, and on the tool that is really the safest tool of all in the shop is the bandsaw.
Well, apparently not.
I was pushing hard and not using a push stick, and as a result, a soft spot of the wood came, and from going very slowly to all of a sudden going really fast, and my blade was not sharp too, and I cut into my hand.
I guess you got close to becoming 8 Fingers Woodworking then, huh?
So my biggest mistake is not being holistically present in the project I'm working with. I have a lead in to almost all my videos that say, be present. If you're tired, step away. This project can wait another day. You may lose a finger. You may lose something, right? Your hearing or whatever, if you're not present. So I'd say my biggest mistake is the days that I continue working without being present.
Besides that, what lessons have you learned from woodworking?
Take your time, slow down, smell the roses. Take your time, plan. Make a plan. Even if it's in your brain, half the projects I work, the plan is all here. There's nothing written down. Make a plan and follow the plan, and try to, on your downtime, try to work out the fallacies of your plan. Say, oh, that's not going to work this way, this way, this way. Whenever I deviate from those plans, that's when I make my worst mistakes. So sometimes make a plan. In all honesty, when I do my best work is when I have the most detailed printed plans. But yeah, I guess I'm lazy, so I rarely do it. But I still do decent work, in my opinion, without it. So just spend time and thinking about what you're doing. Go ahead, spend time about thinking that next cut. You don't necessarily have to go through the entire motion, but figure out, is it safe? Grab a push stick. This was the one I used for my bandsaw. I don't usually like these chicken claw sticks, but for the bandsaw that works just fine. Just you follow safety and say, am I doing something that can hurt
Yes, keep that from ever happening.
me? Well, if you're woodworking, you're eventually going to get hurt. So yes, you are doing something that can hurt you, but can you mitigate that pain? And I think I do a pretty decent job of it. Knock on wood, somewhere around here it is, that I didn't just jinx myself.
After 6 years of producing videos, I noticed that your channel still isn't that popular. 1,000 subscribers. Why do you persist creating videos after all this time?
There's two basic reasons why I continue making videos. One is I like to share.
Please explain further.
We as humans, we all have egos. We want to say, hey, look at me, right? And I'm not out in the street just screaming at the top of my lungs, yelling, look at me. But I want to share. I've learned certain things. I've done things my way. Sometimes I do things a bad way. Sometimes I do things a good way. And people can see my videos, if they were to watch, and say, oh, he did this way. I wish he would have done it that way. Or he did this way. That's a good idea. Maybe I should do it that way. You might learn a lesson from my mistakes or from my successes. That's one reason.
That's notable, but you mentioned 2 reasons, so what's the other reason?
Is that I find that when I film my woodworking projects, I have to move the camera around, which slows me down. It forces me to think about what I'm doing for the 30 seconds or whatever to change the battery on the camera or to move the camera from this position to that position. I find that doing the videos do that. And if I recorded it anyways, why not put it on YouTube or whatever platform that I'm going to be doing in the future? I mean, it doesn't bother me that terribly much that I only have 1,000 subscribers. But I kind of wish I had more, but obviously I don't do the things that I need to do to have more subscribers. Don't feel the need to give me advice on how to get better subscribers. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I like to share, and if you like to watch, fine. I also like to slow myself down, so there you go. That's the reason why.
Well, this has been very informative. I want to thank you for your time, and great job.
Thank you very much. Good. Finally, after every woodworking project, you should always count your fingers. You end with 10. Good job.